Have you ever wondered why the more awake you become, the lonelier you start to feel? Share in the comments, when did you first notice that awakening feels like losing connection with the world? You wake up one ordinary morning, or perhaps in the middle of an unremarkable afternoon, and something shifts. Not with trumpets or lightning, but with the quiet click of a lock turning inside your chest. The world that yesterday hummed along in perfect, predictable rhythm now appears strangely two-dimensional, like a film projected on a bedsheet. People hurry past with their coffee cups and earbuds, chasing deadlines and desires, and you stand there, suddenly aware that you are no longer running with them. It is not that you disdain their race. You simply see the track for what it is, an endless loop of painted scenery spinning on a carousel. And in that seeing, a hush falls over your life. The chatter that once filled the air now sounds like voices speaking underwater, muffled and distant. You have not moved an inch, yet you feel yourself drifting into an orbit no one else inhabits. This is the great joke the universe plays on the awakening mind. The moment you pierce the veil closes behind you. Clarity arrives hand in hand with isolation, like light stepping out of its own shadow. Where once you swam in the warm current of shared illusion, believing the stories of success, romance, and significance that everyone recites you, now float in colder, clearer water. You notice the advertisements promising happiness in a new phone, the politicians selling fear in tidy slogans, the lovers clutching each other as if bodies could fend off the void. You see it all with the tender pity of a parent watching children build sandcastles against the tide. And because you see, you cannot unsee. The knowledge settles in your bones like a second skeleton, heavier than the first. Imagine a single candle lit in a vast cathedral at midnight. Its flame does not rage or demand attention. It simply burns, steady and self-contained. Around it, the darkness gathers in velvet folds, thick enough to touch. The candle does not feel superior to the dark after all. Without darkness, what would it illuminate? Yet, it cannot merge with the shadows either. Its light creates a circle no shadow may cross, and within that circle, the candle stands alone. So it is with the awakened heart. The more brightly it burns, the more defined the boundary around it becomes. Friends still laugh at the same jokes, families still gather for the same rituals, but you sit among them like a visitor from another century, translating their words into a language you once spoke fluently. You nod, you smile, you even join the chorus now and then. But inside, you are listening to a different music, an undertone of silence that grows louder with every passing day. There is irony here, delicious and bittersweet. The spiritual traditions all promised liberation, didn't they? Freedom from suffering, union with the divine, the end of separation. Yet the first taste of freedom feels like exile. You expect it to dissolve into oneness and instead find yourself marooned on a mountaintop, watching the village lights flicker far below. The ego, that old trickster, interprets this as punishment. See what your seeking has cost you? You wanted truth, and now you dine alone. But the deeper mind knows better. Solitude is not the price of awakening. It is the workshop where awakening is forged. In the hush left by departing illusions, something vast begins to stretch its limbs. Thoughts that once raced like taxis now drift like clouds. Emotions that once exploded now ripple and subside. You are not losing the world. The world is losing its grip on you. And in that loosening, space appears acres of inner sky, where truth can unfurl its wings. Picture a man standing on a subway platform at rush hour. The crowd surges around him, a river of coats and briefcases, everyone leaning forward into the same invisible wind. He stands still, hands in pockets, watching the faces stream by. To them, he is an obstacle, a boulder in the current. To him, they are a living fresco, each expression a brushstroke in the painting of human longing. He feels no urge to push or be pushed. The train roars in, doors hiss open, bodies pour in and out like breath. He remains on the platform not because he has nowhere to go, but because he has begun to suspect that arrival is another story we tell ourselves. In his stillness, the platform becomes a temple. The fluorescent lights a constellation. The recorded voice announcing delays a koan. The loneliness is acute, almost exquisite, like the first cold plunge into a mountain lake. It shocks the system awake, and yet, beneath the ache, a subtle warmth spreads. The same clarity that isolates you also connects you to the pigeon pecking at crumbs, to the teenager hunched over a phone glowing with private sorrow, to the elderly woman clutching her groceries as if they were the last solid things in the universe. You do not love them more dramatically than before. You love them more precisely, without the filters of projection and possession. Their stories no longer need to intersect yours to matter. This is the secret the candle keeps. Its light does not belong to it alone. Every shadow it casts is proof of its reach. So too, with the awakened gaze, it carves distance only to measure the true dimensions of nearness. Still, the evenings are long. You sit with a cup of tea cooling in your hands, staring at the wall where shadows play their silent theater. Old friends text about weekend plans, and you type back polite regrets that feel like small betrayals. The radio plays love songs, written for people who believe love can save them. You switch it off, preferring the hum of the refrigerator, that modest monk chanting its one-note sutra. In such moments, doubt creeps in wearing the mask of wisdom. Maybe you've gone too far. Maybe truth is overrated. Maybe you should rejoin the dance, even if the music sounds tinny now. But the doubt passes like a cloud across the moon, and what remains is the same steady flame, burning without fuel, asking nothing. This, then, is the first movement of the great symphony of awakening, the realization that seeing clearly means standing apart, not above, not beyond, but apart, like the eye of a hurricane that finally understands the storm is made of itself. The loneliness is real, but it is not the whole story. It is the overture, the deep breath before the dive. Beneath it, something is gathering an understanding too large for words, too subtle for company. The world has not abandoned you. You have begun to outgrow its older descriptions. And in that outgrowing, a new grammar of being writes itself across the quiet hours. Perhaps loneliness isn't the absence of people, but the birth of vision. The journey into this vision has only just begun, and already the path curves out of sight, promising distances yet to be traveled. The candle still burns, but now the cathedral has vanished. You find yourself on an open moor under a sky thick with stars, each one a question you no longer need to ask. The village lights are gone. Even the echo of footsteps has faded. This is the second movement, not the shock of separation, but the slow, inevitable widening of the gap. Yesterday, you could wave across the divide and pretend the gesture closed it. Today, the moor stretches farther than memory. Friends send photographs of birthdays, weddings, promotions, postcards from a country whose language you are forgetting. You reply with hearts and thumbs up, but the symbols feel like coins dropped into a wishing well that dried up years ago. Their joy is real, your applause is sincere, yet between the sending and the receiving, a silence swells like morning mist. The distance is not geographical, it is perceptual, a shift in focal length. Where others see solid objects, careers, lovers, opinions, you now see processes, energy condensing into form, then dissolving again. A colleague brags about a corner office. You hear the temporary arrangement of light and concrete. A couple argues in a cafe. You watch two storms negotiating boundaries. The knowledge does not make you cold. It makes you quiet. Words that once tumbled out now wait at the back of the throat, tasting every syllable for truth before release. Most fail the test. Ironically, the more you withdraw, the more visible you become to yourself. In the old days, noise filled the inner rooms. Radio anxieties, television desires, the constant renovation of identity. Now, the rooms echo. You walk through them barefoot, noting the scuff marks of former tenants. The ego, evicted but not destroyed, rattles the windows at night. Come back to the party. We were somebody there. You smile, the way one smiles at a child demanding the moon. The moon is already yours, hanging in the same sky that once felt crowded with demands. Out on the moor, the wind teaches physics without equations. It passes through grass, through ribs, through thought, proving there are no separate things. Yet, the body still casts a shadow, and the shadow still walks alone. You meet other travelers, occasionally brief flares on the horizon, lanterns swinging in the dark. A conversation over tea lasts 3 hours, and feels like 3 lifetimes. You part without exchanging names, knowing names are luggage neither of you carries anymore. The encounter leaves a glow that lasts for days, proof that distance does not cancel connection. It only changes its currency. Meanwhile, the old world keeps sending search parties. Parents worry you have joined a cult of silence. Friends stage interventions disguised as dinner parties. You used to laugh so easily, they say, and you hear the unspoken accusation. What did you do with our friend? You almost explain that laughter was a reflex, not a choice, but explanation would require translating starlight into fluorescent bulbs. Instead, you pass the potatoes and let the moment dissolve like sugar in rain. The deepest cut comes when you realize the distance includes your former self. Photographs from 5 years ago show a stranger wearing your face, eyes bright with plans that now seem written in disappearing ink. You do not mourn him, mourning would imply loss. He was a costume brilliantly tailored, now folded away in the attic of memory. Still, the folding leaves creases. Some nights you trace them with a finger and feel the faint warmth of a life that believed in arrival. Yet the moor is not a prison, it is a laboratory. Every step measures the elasticity of loneliness. You discover it can stretch to whole galaxies without snapping. You learn to navigate by inner north, a compass that points nowhere and everywhere. The stars are not distant. They are the moor's night-blooming flowers, and you are the pollen drifting between them. Distance, then, is not absence but transparency, the thinning of veils until only relation remains. One dawn, mist burns off to reveal a single tree on the horizon. You walk toward it for hours, maybe days. When you arrive, it is exactly as far away as when you started. The joke lands gently. The tree was never the point, the walking was. In that instant, distance reveals its secret. It is the space where motion becomes meditation, where separation ripens into spaciousness. The candle has become a star. The moor has become the sky. And the gap, once a wound, now feels like the exact width required for wings to open. The moor has folded itself into a single room, not small, vast, windowless, lit from within. You sit cross-legged on the bare floor, and the silence is so complete you can hear your pulse composing symphonies. This is the third movement, the moment the gap stops widening and begins to breathe with you. Acceptance arrives without ceremony. One morning you notice the old ache is gone, the way a tongue notices a sore tooth has fallen quiet. You do not celebrate. Celebration would imply victory over an enemy, and the distance was never that. It was a midwife. The pain was labor. The child unnameable now sleeps in your arms, warm and impossibly light. You test the new arrangement. You walk to the market. The same vendors hawk the same bruised tomatoes. The same radios spill the same pop songs. But the soundtrack has shifted key. The tomatoes glow like small red lanterns. The songs are birds learning to fly inside a cage of air. You buy nothing yet leave richer. The cashier's fatigue is a watercolor you no longer need to fix. You bow, barely a nod, and she smiles without knowing why. Two strangers exchange weather reports in the language of eyes. Back in the room, you inventory what remains. The furniture of identity has been sold for kindling. The resume, the 5-year plan, the curated wounds. In their place, one bowl, one spoon, one robe, the color of dusk. Possessions now fit in a sigh. You laugh, and the laugh does not echo. It absorbs into the walls like water into moss. Laughter, you discover, is solitude's native tongue. Memories visit, polite as house guests. The birthday party you skipped, the lover who called you cruel for choosing silence over explanation. They sit at the table, drink tea, leave before dark. You do not justify. Justification is a bridge built for two-way traffic. You have retired from engineering. Instead, you offer them the bowl. Some taste and understand. Most wipe their mouths and return to the fog. Either way, the bowl is never empty. The body, that faithful animal, learns new tricks. It sits for hours without fidgeting, the way a heron waits for fish that may never come. Breath becomes a tide you no longer swim against. When pain arrives, knees, grief, the occasional tax form, you greet it like a traveling monk. Ah, you again. Cup of tea, pain drinks, tells its story, departs lighter. You realize suffering was never the enemy. Resistance was. Acceptance is not resignation. It is the art of hosting whatever knocks without checking its credentials. Old friends send rescue balloons. Come hiking. Join book club. You go sometimes, a tourist in your own biography. You climb the hill, eat the sandwiches, applaud the view. The view applauds back. On the descent, someone asks what you do these days. You say, I practice being the space between heartbeats. They laugh, thinking it's a joke. You laugh harder, knowing it's the only resume that still fits. Nights are best. The room dissolves. The more returns, but now it is inside your ribcage. Stars pulse where lungs should be. You lie down and the floor becomes sky. Sleep is optional. Instead, you drift in the dark like a jellyfish, luminous, directionless, at home in currents, no map records. Dreams, when they come, are postcards from the same country you already inhabit. One evening, you light the candle again, not for light, but for company. The flame does not flicker. It rests, the way a cat rests on a sunlit sill. You watch it and see every loneliness you ever feared compressed into that steady tongue of fire. Then you see the room, the moor, the market, the cashier's tired smile, all compressed into the same flame. Separation was a story told by shadows. The light never left. It only learned to travel incognito. Acceptance, then, is not the end of distance, but its transfiguration. The gap becomes a lens. Through it, you see that the village was always burning the same candle, only they called the wax career, the wick relationship, the flame meaning. You no longer need the labels. You blow gently. The flame neither dies nor grows. It simply is, and in that isness the entire universe fits without crowding. You rise, bowl in hand, and step outside. There is no door. The room was always the world. The world was always the room. A child runs past chasing a ball that exists only in motion. You smile the smile of someone who has misplaced nothing, because nothing was ever outside the smile. The acceptance is complete when even the idea of completion falls away. What remains is the quiet hum of a single note, held so long it becomes the silence that contains all music. You walk on, barefoot, bowl empty, heart full, carrying the more in your chest like a portable galaxy. Distance has become the exact width of compassion, wide enough for everything, close enough for nothing to be lost.